and welcome to another episode of The Full Scoop, where we cover all things construction and construction technology. And today we have with us Rob Wagner from the Amo Construction. And Rob is literally a few miles down the road from us, but thanks to COVID-19, we're still doing this interview by video. Rob,
Yeah,
great to
thank
have
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
So tell us a bit more first about the company, about the Amo Construction, the company, the type of projects you guys entail, and introduce a bit about the Amo.
Yeah. So Delamo is a little over 50 years old. It started off with two brothers started the company. Well, I guess I've been there for the last 17, 18 years now. And in that time frame, we've grown from about 30 million to a little over 300 million in volume. And our general contracting side has gone from about 30 or so employees to a little over 120 now. So we're starting to get over that hump of 100 employees, and you need to, kind of focus on more process, and technology has been a big part of that in the last few years. So.
Absolutely. And you must have done a lot of different roles in the last 17 years. What currently you looking after in the business?
Yeah, so I started in estimating, and then after a few years there, I moved over to the project management side, and been worked all the way up the ranks through project management. And now I'm also in a shared role where I'm still doing senior PM work, but I'm also helping the operations department with new technology review and implementation strategies and stuff like that. So.
Brilliant. So give me a bit of a sense of the type of projects the company does.
Yeah, so we do all private work, and it ranges from $2 to $5 million on the low end to 60, $80 million on the high end. A lot of it's kind of white box, and then we also have a fair market share within our company of the religious sectors, so
Right.
Jewish community and churches, schools, private schools, stuff like that. So that was our bread and butter when I started. It was a lot of schools, a lot of gymnasiums, churches, and we've kind of branched off more into the developer side of the industry recently.
Fantastic. So lots has changed in the last 17 years. I'm guessing both from your company because, massive growth. And we'll talk about processes, and definitely technology changed, right? So we'll spend today's episode really about your learning from implementing software and the changes you're seeing in your company and the things that work well and things that you hope could work even better. So let's start with that. Let's talk a bit about like a typical day in the life of an employee in the Amo Construction. Which technology do they use?
Yeah, so our project management platform currently is Procore, and we implemented that about 4 or 5 years ago. Before that, we were running on Timberline's project management tools, and then using a collection of Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, and stuff to fill in the logs and things that Timberline wasn't handling. We had looked at, before that transition, we had looked at things like PlanGrid and FieldWire, and we were really kind of psyched about the online tablet managed plan tools. And Procore at that point had a software called Current Set, and it seemed to be a pretty good, useful freeware tool. So we started implementing it on a few projects. And one thing led to another. Our estimating department was working on a hybrid customization of Bluebeam, and we kind of finally, the guy heading that up and myself heading up all these freeware tools out in the field got together and said, hey, we're not a software company. We need to kind of stop trying to do our own customizations, and let's start to investigate a new platform that can do this stuff. There's a lot of new softwares out in the field, and so we put together a committee within the organization, and we evaluated a lot of the tools that were out there, and we ended up deciding that Procore was the one for us.
How did that implementation go from the day you
It
decided,
was
okay,
it
we'll
was a
start
long
using it?
journey. I mean, Procore had a lot of tools. They wanted to have a lot of touch points within our organization, and our committee, painstakingly tried to go through every option and figure it out. And fortunately, we were an early adopter with Procore, so we actually had the ability to bend their ear on the design side and get direct contact with a lot of their project managers on the software development side. So we felt like we were going to be able to form this tool over time, and we have to some extent, and then they have done what they need to do to keep market share and keep other GCs happy as well. We spent 6 months poring over this tool before we ever released it to any of our employees, and then we launched it, and it's been no looking back since then.
And since the moment you decided to launch it with employees, let's talk a bit about the implementation process and what went well. What would you advise a company that's considering implementing it now? and they should be aware of as they start the process? What do you wish you knew before you started the process?
Yeah, so we had a two-phased implementation. One was kind of all the tools that our field people would use, so RFIs, submittals, plans, specs, stuff that pretty much runs off the tablet, and our superintendents would be in daily contact with. Daily reports is another one, meeting minutes. And then the other set of tools is more the financial based tools. So you got like your budgets, your change orders, all your cost management type stuff. So in the first rollout was all the field tools. And I think, we bit off a little bit more than our employees could chew, I guess you'd say. We kind of overtrained them in a short amount of time, and the amount that they retained wasn't that great. We took a lot of our practices that were in the works from before that, and we just carried them over. And we probably should have rethought about, creating some more bottlenecks, some more checkpoints in our process lineups, because when we first started, we are having data entry issues because things were being left up to every individual in the organization to choose how they fill the fields out, as opposed to one person filling it out consistently every time and stuff. So I think when you do something like this, you really have to pull back the drapes and look at your entire organization and how you're doing business, and then roll it out in smaller bite-sized amounts so that people can really digest it and work with it, and more of a metered output. So
And now that you've pretty much gone through the hurdle of implementation, what are the new needs, new solutions that you're at the moment looking for?
so now we're looking at kind of, Procore took us to the cloud environment. And so now we're taking the rest of the organization into the cloud environment. We're going with O365. We're talking about looking at accounting solutions that are cloud-based, especially with the COVID and work at home, rollouts. It's going to be much more important that all of our staff can work from home on a moment's notice, and they don't have to come in as often as they do right now. So that's probably a big initiative. The other side we're trying to look at is the data collection on the back end. How do we get all these now different platforms to report out data and be in a centralized location so that we can report back on it, so we can get the quantitative information that matches our qualitative gut, so to speak, so.
And are you finding from the field perspective that you have more people are spending more time now entering data? That's a problem we keep hearing from companies, that operators and people in the field, they don't want to become your data entry clerics. How were you able to avoid that from happening at Delamo?
Yeah, so that's a problem that we can't necessarily prevent in every turn, but we do have on the front of our mindset when we're making our decisions about our solutions that we choose, is how many input points can be interconnected on the back end. Can I input something in this software and this other platform over here can read that data point so that someone doesn't have to try to duplicate that, text string exactly? And so that's been a new wrinkle in our evaluation process for a lot of new technologies, is making sure that these things do talk together, they communicate well, and that, somebody's not trying to dominate the sandbox, so to speak. So
Right. How large is the team involved in all things IT? Is it anything from 0 people to you've got a team of 10 people? How many
So we
people
have two
full-time are involved in that?
full-time, what I'll call tech gurus, and then we have more of an IT manager, which handles more of the hardware, typical traditional IT solutions. He gets keyboards fixed, he gets printers fixed, he gets,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. And then we have kind of a call-in question person too. So that's more of like a help desk liaison sort of thing. And then we have a variety of managers that assist them in their decision making and stuff like that. So there's essentially 4 full-time employees working on these, what we call technical operations. That's the name of the department for our organization. And then a variety of managers like myself. I manage work, and then I help them kind of as a, aside to the work I'm actually directly managing and stuff. So.
Great. And one of the things I guess you use Procore and other systems is to manage your subs, right? All your subcontractors and people who
Mhm.
work with you on the projects. Let's talk a bit about that. Today, every subcontractor, do they have to use your system? How do you end up coordinating information with the people who you work with?
Yeah, so they don't have to use our system. They can send everything in via email. There are portals with which they can upload directly and they can respond to things. So if they want to help streamline the process, they can, but it's not required. Everything though that we send out gets distributed through the system. So they get automated emails, they get, all the RFIs, all the submittals that get returned, they all go out through that system.
Do you see that evolving to a world where, in order for you to get all the information, everyone is on the same system?
Oh, absolutely. I think that you're going to see, for instance, Procore will probably create some sort of a subcontractor tool so that they can have their own environment there, and it will help them streamline their submittal processes. It'll help streamline their change order submission processes and even their daily tickets and daily logs. Like their guys out in the field can be logging that stuff on their phone, all their T&M tickets, and instantly that night, the PM has it on his desk and he can just start matching receipts from the accounting side over to it and get our change orders submitted much faster and other documentation too. So
That
I
that
hope that's actually where it's headed. That will be very beneficial for everybody, I think.
Yeah, that's super interesting because we had another episode we spoke about this issue of one version of the truth, and usually there are multiple versions of the truth, right? You can have your plan, and maybe you have a plan approved versus plan submitted. And today, do you have these problems of the sub says, "Well, I submitted this," and you received it and approved it, but your original plan was something else, and now you have some conflict between two versions of the truth?
Yeah, there's definitely some, ambiguity on certain things. And a lot of that happens when you start trying to move a job quickly and off of verbal conversations as opposed to waiting for the actual paper documentation to hit. And then when the paper doesn't match the conversation or how people remember the conversation, you get in trouble. A single source of truth goes back to your data entry issue. I mean, that's ideally what we want. We don't want confusion in there. We don't want there to be two versions of the same change order floating around in our system. That's just a recipe for arguing later on. So, we'd like to avoid all that. But at the same time, the general contractor to subcontractor is kind of, cooks in the kitchen, and the owner only wants to see their nice filleted steak coming out, right? So we do need to have our ability to churn through the tough aspects of those discussions without full transparency and stuff like that, until we've agreed on what we're doing.
Uh,
So
So, what at the moment, high level in the management, are the main things you're losing sleep on? What are the key problems, key needs that you're trying to fix in the next 6 months?
well, I mean, one of the things that's really difficult is it's a very aged industry, and there's a lot of people in this industry that are afraid of change. And even though they will give you the go ahead and they'll say the right things and they'll nod their head, when it comes to them being a participant in the change, it's been a little bit more difficult than we had ever anticipated. So I don't know if this is something we have to wait out as a generational issue, or if there's a way to kind of bring them around to the light eventually. But there's been kind of this separation in our organization where the top execs kind of want all this stuff to happen below them and just still have their same reports. And everybody in tech ops is saying, well, we need to change how we're reporting on these things. We need to change how we're looking at things, because all of these solutions provide all these other opportunities to analyze stuff differently. And
Hmm.
you guys are asking us to just keep cramming a square peg into what was your round hole. Well, the peg has changed shape, so let's fit the hole to the peg now, kind of thing. So that's difficult, and trying to manage that personality discussion from underneath is a challenge. So
And do you see today technology as a hygiene factor, something you just need to do, like accounting, but it doesn't necessarily help you achieve your results? as opposed to technology is starting to help you perform better, whether that is generate more top line or improve your bottom line? Where currently does it stand at
I
Dilemma?
think technology does two things for you primarily. One is employee retention, trying to attract the brightest and most talented new employees out there. You've got to be somewhere along the cutting edge. You know, construction is not a sexy industry. And so the fact that we're starting to now get into the technology discussion is making it a little bit more of a sex appeal kind of trade war for these younger talented employees. It also is helping a lot of these companies, and ours included, is streamline and consolidate your processes so that everybody across your organization is doing it the same way. With the freedom of Excel and Word, I mean, that's a free form open slate. Anybody can add columns, anybody can add rows. You can start manipulating cells and adding all sorts of formulas and doing your own thing pretty quickly and easily. When you're locked into one of these more static frameworks and software packages, it does kind of force everybody to get much closer to doing things the exact same way. And that makes it easier to trade your teams in and out, right? To have people step over to this other team and help them for a couple months because they're a backlog of paperwork and stuff, so.
Sure. And let's switch to talk about favorite subject of everyone, it seems, COVID-19.
Oh,
So, what was the impact of COVID-19 beyond the personal, which affects every person pretty much in the world? How did
yeah.
it affect specifically the company and your operations and the way you do
So
things?
we immediately kicked everybody out of the office. We kicked everybody out of the field that didn't need to be in the field. And then we kind of thought about it after that, right? Like, hey, everybody that has a laptop, get out of here, go work from home. If you don't have a laptop, pack up your desktop and start working from home kind of thing. And then, our IT department was like, what the heck? How do we handle all this? And some of these people can't do their full job. So, all right, we got to figure out how to sanitize part of the office and move their offices around so they can come in and be distanced and stuff like that. So that was the initial knee-jerk reaction, I guess. I think long-term, we are starting to think about an office that has less people in it, that has more of like a turnaround desk and more mini conference room type setups. And that will be more of the long-term future. It will be a lot more work from, it's okay, work from the job site 2-3 days a week, work from home the other 2-3 days a week, and come into the office for your team meetings and whatever you need to, and just, check out a desk. And we'll have, if there's still sanitary procedures and whatever in place, then we'll be doing that. But I'm talking beyond the sanitary stuff, hoping this is, post mask and all that stuff is behind us. I think we're still going to have more of a satellite turnaround office type thing with only the top executives having real, landmark offices in our headquarters. So.
Super. And in terms of customers, have you seen projects that are now being delayed, or have you seen actually projects going further because all of a sudden you can work on them faster? What's the impact on the business?
Currently, I'm watching one job finish up, and then another one is struggling with city issues. So I haven't seen anything speed up, but I haven't seen anything really slow down. What has me most concerned is that the intercommunications that used to be there, just having a desk close to somebody else, you just talk to them about some issue you saw on the job site, they're not happening.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to still find ways to open up a channel of communication between people needs to happen. So something, some technology, some whatever needs to kind of figure out how to bring back the water cooler talk, so that those little sparks of ideas can still be shared, right?
Yeah.
You don't just talk about, the latest sitcom at the water cooler. You talk about work at the water cooler. And when you share those issues on the project, people become aware, you get more minds thinking about how to solve problems, and things run smoother, right? More people know about issues, we can all keep an eye on it, we're helping each other out. I feel like with the current situation of everybody kind of working remotely, you sign in to talk about the topic you guys said you're going to talk about, you sign out, and those auxiliary conversations aren't happening. So we'll see if that has an impact on the projects, if there's more mistakes because of that or not. But I'm a little worried about that.
So with that in mind, switching back to technology, are there any things you're excited about that you haven't tried? Anything from drones to wearables to cameras all over the site? What things have you
So
not tried
I,
yet and
I
you want
did
to
have
try?
an opportunity to work with a company out of Israel, and they're an AR VR company called Clone.
Hmm.
And they're working on a technology that will kind of transport somebody onto the job site, or actually a group of people onto the job site. So the superintendent can wear an AR headset, and then anybody else can either use their phone or a full VR headset, and you can all be standing on the job site looking at the real job site conditions with avatars on the screen as well. And so you're having a stand on the job site meeting, but everybody's sitting in their living room or whatever. So it's, that was a pretty cool technology. I think there's some technical difficulties on speed of data transmission and accuracy of what you're looking at, but we'll see. With time, maybe the technology can get there, or bandwidth can get there to support it, and it'll be how everybody's communicating in the future. So maybe that'll be my water cooler.
Yeah, it could be, right? And I'm guessing you've seen more and more people that you didn't think previously will be doing video calls now, jumping on a video call and a Zoom call. Everyone in the organization pretty much knows how to do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. It was a little bit of a learning curve at first, having guys log in late, and now I don't know how to set this up. Is my mic on or off, or who muted me kind of questions. But yeah, now everybody's a pro. So.
Fantastic. Great. So to finish off, one question that I ask everyone, if right now you had the chance to take any piece of heavy equipment, go for a field day with your very newborn baby, right? Maybe with the baby, maybe without
Yeah.
the baby.
Yeah.
What would that one be?
I'd probably fly back to Wisconsin, hop on my dad's Bobcat, and go help him build dirt bike trails back in the backwoods. So
That
that would
sounds awesome. And I hope you can do that soon in a pandemic-free world. And for everyone who's listening, and I think you gave lots of room for thought for companies that are thinking about the problems you pointed to. What's the best way to get hold of you?
Probably through LinkedIn. Yeah.
Great.
So Robert Wagner on LinkedIn, or Rob Wagner, I should say. So
Fantastic. So, anyone's listening or watching this, you'll see in the links above the podcast, above the recording, you'll have links to the Amo Construction, to the website, as well as to Rob. And Rob, I want to thank you so much for jumping on the call and taking part in the show. And I look forward to also seeing you in person, given that we're only a few miles one from another.
yeah, yeah. So hopefully we can have a chat and coffee together sometime soon. So
Fantastic. Thanks so much. And see you all in the next episode of The Full Scoop.
thank you.